What's going on, everyone? This is Nate the Great coming to you live from, well, not Texas anymore, over in Washington. Coming back from a 3-week break from doing these live shows. I'm here today with the Angry Degenerate Mike and Greg the Keg Galano. Greg, so Mike, since you're new to the network, why don't you take a little bit to explain, talk about yourself?
Yeah, my name's my gimmick there is the Angry Degenerate. I host a podcast. It's the Angry Degenerate podcast. I'm about 12 episodes in. But my real name is Michael. Michael, I live out here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thus, I am supporting here the San Francisco 49ers. But I've been a lifelong sports fan, a lifelong Bay Area sports fan. Been loving sports since I was a little child, and I'm glad to be here with everyone here, and glad to be with Greg and Nate. Thank you for having me on, and a pleasure to be here.
And Greg, uh, so how are things have been going for you?
Oh man, Nate, things been going crazy. I did 5 weeks of caregiving, and during that entire time, I kept getting letters from the state and the Department of Education and everything, wanting me to do fingerprints and do all this stuff. And I left caregiving, and now I'm teaching preschool. So I hopped in from one extreme to the next. So it's just been crazy. Things are going really well. My girlfriend and I are getting along great, and things are going great there. But it's been a whirlwind with work, man. Just switching over from caregiving on, last Thursday or 2 Thursdays ago, and then switching over to teaching preschool. So it's been a huge transition. So it's nice to talk to some adults.
No, I feel you, Greg. In this work from home life that I'm in now, I'm taking care of my 3-year-old son for the past now year and a half. So it's always good to speak to adults, not the 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get into the topics. I know, kind of a little bit beating on the dead horse here, because their past couple of shows did talk a little bit about it, but NFL preseason week 2, week 1, depending on how you look at it, happened, and we're not going to be talking about all the games because that's a lot to go through, but we are going to be talking about more of the bigger ones. I think the first one that kind of is getting on a couple people's attention, maybe a backup quarterback battle, is Pittsburgh Steelers when they played against the Philadelphia Eagles. Dwayne Haskins in the past couple of games has looked way better than Mason Rudolph, and I like the Haskins move more and more since he really signed with Pittsburgh. The Angry Degenerate Mike, why don't you take the first? What are your thoughts on this game? More towards quarterback situation or anything else that you wanted to talk about?
Well, regarding the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they've had Ben Roethlisberger now for, God, I think since 2005, 2006. He's on the tail end of his career, probably the last year of his career.
I think so.
Yeah, exactly. Especially after he came off with Tommy John 2 years ago and that entire thing. But I just have a sense that those two guys that we're talking about, the Haskins of the world and the Rudolphs of the world, I don't think those two guys are the quarterbacks of the future. They're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, I do see an improvement in Dwayne Haskins, but that's probably because, he's not in a dysfunctional organization like the Washington Redskins. And plus, I mean, he's a first-round pick. There is credence to the fact that he's a first-round pick and still out there, performing. But, other than that, I mean, I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers have their answer at quarterback past Ben. I do think at the moment, though, let's say something does happen to Ben this year, they do have two decent backup quarterbacks that they can rely on at least for a couple games. Now, if you're going to go and rely on them for more than a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, then they might be a little bit screwed, especially in that division.
Greg, now anything else that you wanted to talk about for that game that we didn't actually go over?
Yeah, I don't really have much to go off of as far as the game's concerned, but when it comes to Haskins, I think that it was a pretty good pickup really for him to move over to the Steelers because as we all know, things didn't work out that well with when he was with Washington. I don't know if he just didn't pick up the playbook that well or was unprepared or didn't take it quite as seriously as he should have. I know that there was a lot of complaints from some of the coaches and everything that his work ethic wasn't quite where they wanted it to be and what you would expect out of a first round draft pick. I think that the talent is there for Dwayne Haskins. I definitely think from a talent standpoint he has it. I just think that when he came into the league, like a lot of quarterbacks, he was pretty young, he was pretty fresh, he got thrown into the fire, and I don't think he was quite ready for it. And I think that a change of scenery, like a lot of young quarterbacks, young players, I think it does them good maybe to sit behind somebody for a year or two and everything. So I don't know necessarily. Freddie mentioned wanted to know if this was Big Ben's last year. I don't know quite for sure if it is. I think that it might be just because it doesn't seem like Big Ben is really that motivated to get in top physical condition. Um, he looks like he's packing a little bit extra right now, but I don't know. I don't know if this is going to be it for him or not. But I think that for Haskins, I think that this is great for him to sit behind Big Ben for another season or so and just kind of learn the game. I think that he has two tough-nosed coaches that he's had. He's had Ron Rivera and he's got Mike Tomlin. So I think between those two guys, they can whip him into shape and get the talent that, because I definitely thought that he was a first rounder, or an early second rounder when he got drafted. I just think that and they're starting to kind of clean up a lot of those issues and everything. But I think that it was a great move. So I think that Pittsburgh is in good hands from a backup standpoint if Big Ben gets hurt or if he decides to call it after the season.
I can totally see Big Ben maybe not retire. I think he's going to retire as a player, as a quarterback, as a player, but I see him taking up like a coaching role in the NFL. So I think his years as a player are done after this year, but as being an NFL general, I think they're not. I think we're going to see him again.
You don't think he's going to fade out like Phillip Rivers and go coach high school or something, or take a little time off?
Yeah, maybe take some time off, but I don't think this will be like. I don't think he's going to retire from NFL generally. I think he might take a couple of years or maybe go immediately right into it.
Going back real quick, talking about Dwayne Haskins, one thing that I do see that is a positive if he does eventually become that quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers is that he is mobile. So it's not like he's going to be stuck in the pocket like Big Ben. And they have a pretty, terrible offensive line there with Pittsburgh. So they're going to need a quarterback that is pretty freaking mobile. And Big Ben at his age ain't mobile, and Dwayne Haskins is, and that's kind of what you need now in the modern day NFL.
And I don't know if you guys caught a lot of the preseason games or not, but I've seen some outstanding play from some of the backup quarterbacks throughout a lot of these teams. My Colts had some great play from their backup quarterbacks. Eason and Ellinger definitely put on a show, So I don't think we're going to be quite the same without Carson Wentz, but it's good to know that we got a few people that can actually get the ball down the field and make some good throws.
Now, speaking of that, let's go into the next game that was addressed that we wanted to address, and I'm going full homer on this, but kind of. Denver Broncos and the Minnesota Vikings. Drew Lock had a great game, but so did Teddy Bridgewater. I think that Teddy Bridgewater, I kind of expected that because Teddy Bridgewater's a veteran, and he's going up against backos. So that's to be expected. Now going up against starters is a little harder. I do kind of want Drew Lock as a starting quarterback throughout this season because he's young. He's young. He needs to kind of get his experience. But in preseason, I would like to see Teddy Bridgewater start at least one game. Go with Greg on this since I went with Mike last time.
Yeah, I think it'd be kind of nice to see Teddy Bridgewater come in. I don't really think that they're gonna do the whole, let's play both quarterbacks each game or switch off every few games or something. I think that if one of them comes out, if Locke comes out and has the hot hand, they're gonna stick with him, regardless of whatever Teddy Bridgewater's contract is. I think that Elway's got a lot to say about Drew Lock. I think that he likes him. I think that he's just a little rough around the edges. Another player that I think is going to be outstanding, not a quarterback, but is Patrick Surtain.
I knew you were going to say that.
I mean, the guy, when we were talking about this on draft day, remember, Nate, about how the Broncos didn't need that position covered, but that was a very, very great pick. I think that he's going to be a premier cornerback in the league for years.
I just wanted to throw out some numbers here. Another guy that I think had an impressive game was KJ Hamler, especially in the first drive. You look at Drew Lock. He went 5 through 7, and 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. But one of those touchdowns was to KJ Hamler, and he had an over 100-yard game with only 3 minutes into it. Now,
yeah, they've got some speedsters definitely in their receiving core. They definitely have some speedsters, and I think that Drew Lock has a decent arm. I think that he's plenty athletic to fill the position. I think that when you look at teams like the Broncos and the Washington football team, I think that you're looking at two teams right there that have premier defenses, and the only thing that they really lack is elite or decent or above decent level quarterback play. That's the only thing really holding those two teams back. They got everything else going for them from a position standpoint.
Now, Mike, anything? You have any thoughts on anybody from the quarterback play? You ever really?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the quarterback situation with the Denver Broncos, and I follow that division pretty carefully because I live out here in the San Francisco Bay Area, so of course I watch the Las Vegas Raiders pretty freaking frequently. I'm also a big I like to watch Justin Herbert, so I'm pretty tuned in with that division, and of course Kansas City. But my take on the quarterback situation with the Broncos is both look good in that initial preseason game. But if you're Vic Fangio and you're on the hot seat and you need to go with the quarterback that's going to give you the better chance to win. Vic Fangio and his staff, they drafted Drew Lock, I believe they did, and or at least John Elway did. When I rate Drew Lock versus Bridgewater, I mean Bridgewater does absolutely nothing for me. He is the stereotypical great backup quarterback that you need to step in for 3-4 games, kind of like what he did with Drew Brees down there in New Orleans. But he's not a guy you need to be a starting quarterback. He's not going to win you games as a starting quarterback. We saw that last year with the Carolina Panthers. He had Joe Brady as OC, and they had pretty talented wide receivers with Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, and they still finished 4-12. Obviously, a lot of that probably was not Bridgewater's fault, but it's just a recurring pattern with him dating back to his Minnesota Viking days. I know obviously he led them to the playoff appearance with the Vikings, and his knee injury, but Bridgewater just does nothing for me. I think you got to go with the younger guy. I think you have to go with Drew Lock. I think he has more potential. Now, whether he's actually going to be good or not is a story for another day. But he just needs to be decent with that defense. He just needs to be decent. He doesn't need to be a guy that needs to go out there and light it up.
Yeah, I really wish that they wouldn't have moved on from Philip Lindsay. I don't know how you feel, Nate, but that guy was
I
kind of the
kind of
heart.
disagree with that, actually. I mean, I've been a huge fan of Philip Lindsay. He's a good guy. He had a great year with us his first season. However, that was his first season. He declined as years went on. And based off of the Pat Shermer offense that he likes to go through, he does this 3 wide receiver, 1 tight end, one running back. So because we got Melvin Gordon last year, I completely agree. I mean, I completely disagree. I can understand why Philip went and.
Well, I'm talking more from like just what he brought to the locker room. I mean, he was a hard nosed player. He brought a lot of leadership. He had a lot of heart. He was a local guy. He was from the state of Colorado. So
Colorado Springs, I think.
It's from Aurora. Aurora.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
But you know what? He actually has a chance to start with that terrible Houston Texans team.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Exactly.
So going on to another team that has a quarterback competition, even though I feel like I know who's going to win that. Let's talk about the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees retired, so it's either down to Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, and he had this eye latex surgery. I'm not a big Saints fan, but if I was, I would say hopefully that would work out for him. I kind of feel like that Jameis Winston is going to be the guy to start for New Orleans and just have Taysom Hill do like this pocket knife, where he's running back one play, tight end another, kind of what he did with Drew Brees. Now, Mike, since you went you went second last time, why don't you go ahead and give your thoughts about they lost to New Orleans, so any tip, anything that you thought that was a good part, anything that you thought was good for the any thoughts on the game?
I just think the New Orleans Saints is a complete mess at the moment. I mean, to say the least. You see what's happening at the quarterback position. Is it going to be Jameis? Is it going to be Taysom? For my opinion, if my opinion counts for anything, I'd say go with Jameis and kind of still use Taysom Hill in kind of the utility role. See what Jameis has. I mean, it's not like he has no talent. The guy threw 30 touchdown passes just a few years ago, and 5,000 yards. But it's just he also throws it at just as many times to the other team. But under Sean Payton, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I mean, they're just a mess at the moment with their Michael Thomas and that entire injury situation, and it doesn't seem like the team is happy with them. Now I kind of hear that they've kind of resolved their issues, but he's going to be out for at least the start of the season. So I mean, on offense, there, who are you really going to rely on? You have 2 guys at quarterback who in the NFL circles, in media circles, in fandom circles, it just kind of seems like nobody has any confidence in both of those guys. But I had the Saints as when I did my way early season predictions. I had them pegged as a 9-win team. I'm not sure if they'll even be a 9-win team but they might because the division is so weak. But I mean, it's a toss up at this point. But my take on the New Orleans Saints at the moment is just that team's a mess. They're just lucky that they have Sean Payton at the helm, or else they would be a dumpster fire.
So I'm going to give a quick spicy hot take. I think that the New Orleans Saints are going to be last in their division this year.
It's a possibility.
Bucks winning at first. Carolina gets second. Atlanta gets third. They're a mess, but I feel like New Orleans is more of a mess. Greg, how do you feel about New Orleans as a team?
Before Breeze retired and at the end of the season, after they lost in the playoffs this last season, I still thought that if Breeze came back, that they were going to be able to maybe squeak out 10 or 11 wins. This next season out of 17 games, the new 17 game format. I'm right with you, Nate. I don't really see a promising future right now with the Saints because Breeze retired. They've made some decent draft picks, but they've kind of missed on some too. Their defense is getting better, but I think that they've got a long ways to go. I think that when you're talking about Taysom Hill, you're talking about a guy that's mainly in the league because he does a lot of different things pretty good. But he doesn't, he's kind of a jack of all trade, but a master of none. He's not an exceptional passer, but he can pass the ball. He's not an exceptional runner, but he can handle his own with it. He can catch the ball. He can perform special teams. So he does a lot of different intangibles for the team. That's the main reason he has a roster spot is because he can do things. He's not just a backup quarterback. He can fill in for special teams. He can make some tackles. He can catch the ball. He can do the wildcat. He can make a pass if he has to. He can run. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. But he's not an absolute exceptional player. I think that when it comes from a quarterback standpoint, I would have to give it to Jameis because I think that from a quarterback standpoint, he's a better overall quarterback. I think that he's got a better arm. I think he's got a little bit better mentality in the pocket than what Hill does. Although Hill did have some pretty good games last year when Breeze was out with surgery, for a few weeks and everything. But I will say this though, we're talking about Jameis Winston, and they're trying to chalk up a lot of his, bad throws and everything to not having great eyesight and everything. But I think that if this LASIK surgery is really successful, I think that the Saints can win. I think they'll be at least win 8 games this year. I think they'll almost, I think they might make it to 500 football.
See, my problem with the New Orleans Saints as an analyst perspective is that the New Orleans Saints have lost a lot of depth throughout this offseason. They have a couple of their starters here and there that are really, solid players like Alvin Kamara, especially out from the backfield. But a lot.
They've lost a lot on defense as well.
Yeah, they lost a lot of defense, lost a lot of depth. So if injuries is a big concern, then that's not going to do well for this New Orleans
Their
team.
best draft pick that they've had in the last 2 seasons is the guy that they have snapping the ball to whoever the quarterback is going to be. That's pretty much, I think, the most outstanding player that they've got. I mean, he's a really good player, but I mean, they haven't went out and got a new quarterback. They haven't got, a top level receiver. They haven't got a top linebacker really in the draft. So, they've got a lot of work to do. They're getting decent picks, but I think that the last couple of drafts, I don't think that they've even hit, in my opinion, B grade. I think that they've been in the C plus grade for draft picks.
I know in their camp they've been really hyping up their tight end. What is his name? Adam Troutman. So we'll see what he does. I know he's been a couple on the radar of a couple of my fantasy football drafts, but we shall see.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be, worse than the Panthers, but I definitely can see the Falcons, edging them out, and for sure the Buccaneers. So, yeah. The Falcons, that was just they should have won about 4 more games last year too. I mean, they had so many fourth quarter leads and they just blew it. So it would have been nice to see Kyle Pitts with Julio Jones, but I think that would have opened up a lot of things for Matt Ryan this season. You there, Nate?
I think he's frozen. He left us. All right.
He's not a Saints fan. Nate is not Nate was living in Dallas or the Fort Worth area, and he definitely doesn't like the Cowboys. So if
And
he
he
doesn't
moved
like
over.
the Cowboys, I know that he doesn't like the Saints. So
he moved over from Cowboy country to Seahawk country, the 12th man.
Yeah.
But I guess since he's not here at the moment, leading the topics, I mean we could quickly jump on. What were your thoughts on did you catch the New England Patriots? What are your thoughts on? There he is.
Sorry, it's like Spike, so I'm back.
You're back. Fantastic.
So you I kind of heard what you said about the Patriots when you're talking about the game of the Washington football that was played last week.
Yeah, I just briefly brought up the New England Patriots game. Mac Jones. If you believe in Mac Jones, if you're a Mac Jones supporter, he did well this past week. For whatever, if you want to believe in this preseason hype, or he played well in preseason, or whatever, if you want to believe into all this hype that happens in preseason, but to the visual eye, playing against second, third string, maybe fourth string guys, he looked very good. My problem with Mac Jones is the problem that I have with a lot of quarterbacks in the league that aren't mobile is, once the pocket breaks down, is he going to be able to be able to create plays like a mobile quarterback? And that's always been my problem with Mac Jones, even dating back to his Alabama days. Now, that's just my take on him. Now, that's not to say that I'm a big fan of Cam Newton, because I am not. I think that quarterback situation at the end of the day will end up being the downfall of the New England Patriots, because I do think that they got some pieces this offseason to solidify that offense, but they just don't have a quarterback yet again, in my opinion.
People could tell you on this network I'm not a big fan of Cam Newton either. And especially not after 2016 when he had it, 2017 when he came back from his injury.
Yeah, he's been pretty awful.
Yeah.
I think that Cam Newton, it's unfortunate that the Redskins, the Washington football team, or whatever they want to be called now, wasn't able to make a move on Cam Newton, because I think that he played some of his best ball when he was under Ron Rivera. I think that those two made a pretty good tandem. I don't know if they really had a deep connection or not, but it seemed like they had a pretty good thing going. Especially when they were in Carolina together. I don't know. I think that Belichick is going to get the most out of whoever he puts in there. So whether it's going to be Mac Jones, whether it's going to be Cam Newton, I think that Belichick's going to find a way to get the most out of his quarterbacks. I think Mike was right, about Mac Jones looking good against four-string guys and kind of late in the game guys, because we all know that in the preseason games, none of the starters are really out there late in the game when it counts. So Mac Jones, he is a pretty accurate passer. He had all the talent in the world. He had basically NFL talent blocking for him, all season long, his entire career at
catching for him.
So yeah, so he didn't take too many hits in the pocket, when he was playing for Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide. So I like Mac Jones. I really don't understand what the big hype was with all the speculation that the 49ers might take him with the number 3 pick, because I have no idea why anybody would have him at the number 3 pick. I think he's a decent quarterback. I think that he's got really, really good precision throwing, for the 20 to 30 yard throws out of the pocket. I really don't know where that whole top 3 mystery pick was going to come from. I definitely think that Trey Lance is going to be something else when if Shanahan can work with him. So
Well, that's the game that front offices play, just leaking information, leaking information. I believe that's what the 49ers were doing, trying to get people off the smell there and trying to get people off of the uh, Trey Lance pick, and it looks like they were a success off of that because damn near every publication that I read said that the 49ers were going to draft Mac Jones, and obviously he fell to like 15.
I like Mac Jones. It wouldn't surprise me if he does start a handful of games this year, regardless of whether if Cam Newton's hurt or not. I do think that he'll probably start a few games this year because we know that last season, Cam Newton kind of had a short leash. If he went out there and threw some interceptions or didn't play well, Belichick had no problems. Calling it a night or pulling them from the field. So I definitely think that we're going to see a little bit of Mac Jones this year, regardless of Cam Newton's health out there.
I agree with that.
See, there's he came from an Alabama team that had a
Nate the Great, things are going bad with your internet connection yet again, buddy.
Yeah.
I mean, now that we were on the topic of Trey Lance a little bit ago, I was at the 49ers preseason game, and anybody that knows me knows I hate preseason with every vein of my being. But and I've been to a couple training camps as well. And Trey Lance has looked good. He's looked good. Now, do I know what I can make up? What can I make of this? I mean, he's playing against third, fourth string guys. He's throwing passes in training camp against fifth, sixth string quarterbacks. At the preseason game, he was also he was playing behind an offensive line that was missing 4 offensive linemen, which is why he got sacked 4 times. But you know what? He showed the ability that Kyle Shanahan wants, and it's a guy that's able to extend plays. It's a guy that's able to roll out in the pocket, and it's a guy that's able to make that throw to Trent Sherfield that had the 80-yard touchdown. Now, the throw wasn't pretty, but he was able to get it there, which is something that Jimmy G is not able to do. He's just not a very mobile quarterback. And those, designed rollout plays, you're not going to see those for Jimmy. You're going to see quick passes out of his hand quickly. With Trey Lance, I've been very impressed by him, but once again, I don't know what to make of it. It's preseason, it's training camp.
Yeah, it's still pretty early.
It's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot. I mean, he wasn't very accurate at the preseason game, but he also was playing behind a backup offensive lineman. He wasn't playing behind Trent Williams. He wasn't playing behind Alex Mack. He wasn't playing behind McGlinchey. He was playing behind guys that are fighting for their job, like Sean Coleman. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast right now at training camp, trying to make up something about this. But from what we've seen, he looks good. What can we make about it when the lights actually come on and it's week 1 or whenever he's going to start, which I don't believe he's going to start week 1, by the way. All that hype, that's another media hype that's going on right now. I do think at some point in time he probably will start, either due to Jimmy's short leash ineffectiveness or perhaps injury. We know Jimmy's always very prone to injury, but we also know that when Jimmy's on the field, he also performs. They win. Greg, what's your take on the Trey Lance, San Francisco 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo fake quarterback controversy that's going on out there?
Well, I don't really think at this point there's really much controversy. I think that Trey Lance is in the perfect position because Jimmy G is still a capable quarterback to an extent. He can make decent throws, short throws. Like you said, he's not a very active guy outside of the pocket. He doesn't have very elusive skills. He's not like a Russell Wilson that can scramble and make something happen. He's not that kind of quarterback. But I think that things are going to work out well for Trey Lance because he's not going to have to just, jump right into the fire right away like a lot of these quarterbacks. You see Trevor Lawrence, he's probably going to be a day 1 starter, whether he wants to be or not, because he doesn't really have anybody to learn from. He's already above Gardner Minshew and whoever else they have back there. So he's probably going to be a day 1 starter. But with Trey Lance, I definitely think that he's going to start at some point this season. but it's going to be good that he's going to be able to handle the clipboard and take some notes and learn a little bit more about the system and everything before he gets thrown out there. And I think that's going to help him a lot. And I think that it's going to help the 49ers, because I think that Jimmy G is going to be able to squeak out some wins and everything. The 49ers are basically built to win. They've got tons of talent on both sides of the ball. All they need is a capable quarterback. They have an outstanding defense. They got some offensive tools. They have a great special teams game. They got a great kicker. So everything's in place for San Francisco to make a run and win now. So I think that it's a win-win for Trey Lance. I don't think that he's going to start right away, but if Jimmy G gets hurt, or if he's not performing well, then he'll be ready. But I think that it's going to serve him well to be able to sit for maybe a month or so before they really get him out there to see what's going on.
And the one thing about the 49ers these last couple of seasons, minus the Super Bowl year, has been injuries, and injuries at the quarterback position in particular, which is why they went out and did get Trey Lance. But if worse comes to worse, you have a very capable backup in either Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. And I'd be willing to bet that either one of those quarterbacks, if Jimmy Garoppolo eventually becomes the backup quarterback, let's say sometime in the season, he's probably the most expensive backup in the NFL, but he's probably the best backup in the NFL. And that's a good position to be in a team that's that needs to win now, or is in the position to win now. I see a question here that says, what do y'all think the 49ers record will be? I think they play in by far, I don't know by far, but at least by far the toughest division in the NFC. You could see any of those three teams, I'd say, in the 49ers, Seahawks, or Rams taking the division. You can also see any of those three teams also making it to the postseason, because I think the NFC East is just going to be a shit show once again. But when I did my early season predictions, I had the 49ers at somewhere between 11 wins, 10, 11 wins, and I had the Rams around there as well. So I think it's going to be kind of a battle between those two teams for the first place. But Seattle keeps surprising us year after year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that if I was to kind of make an early prediction on the wins, I think that the 49ers are probably going to have about 11 wins. That's mainly because I've looked at some of the schedules this year, and with a 17-game schedule, I don't really see a whole lot of teams getting past 12 wins this season. I only have maybe 2 or 3 teams that are gonna get 12. I don't even have anybody winning 13. So I think it's gonna be pretty competitive. I don't think anybody's gonna go 16-1 or 15-2 or anything like that. I think it's gonna be pretty competitive. So I think that about 12 wins is gonna be about the tops, throughout the league. I think there might be a 13 in there or something if the Chiefs can get their line.
Tampa Bay, maybe.
Yeah,
Tampa
Bay, but they may end up having the Super Bowl hangover. We don't know, but it's going to be kind of scary that they've got all 22 of their starters on offense and defense re-signed. So, that's that's going to be tough.
Absolutely. I know that Greg. I know that Nate was supposed to lead the conversation about the upcoming games that we were going to be talking about, but I think we can possibly move on now to talking about. Oh, Nate, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Okay.
All right, we just
Nate, what's going on, bud?
Trying to figure out the connection.
Seattle's football field is named after an internet company, and you can't get internet going on over there.
That is a tough gig. So we just got done talking about the NFC West, and we kind of we got Edgardo here in the audience asking, the division order of the NFC West. I am wearing 49ers colors, so it might be a little bit of a homer take here, but I have the 49ers at 11 wins. I have the Rams at 11 wins. I got Seattle at 10 wins, and then I have Arizona with 7 wins. I have them in the rear there. I don't know what your guys' take on the NFC West is.
Another bold take. I have Seattle last in the division making playoffs.
So you have all 4 teams making the playoffs? Is that what you said? Because if Seattle's in last place and you got them making the playoffs, that means all teams are going to make the playoffs, and there you go. You are frozen yet again, my friend. Greg, what's your thoughts on the title race or the divisional race there?
You know what? I got the Rams. It's going to be a battle between the Rams and the 49ers for me at the top. I think that both of them are going to be around the 11-win mark. So it might be a coin toss or a head-to-head or something to see who wins the division out of that. I think that.
Yep.
I think that if the Cardinals.
I
think that the Cardinals have something going on. I think that they're starting to click, and I think if they can get a little bit more maturity out of Murray and everything, I think they've got the tools, and they picked up J.J. Watt and made some pretty decent moves this offseason. So I think that they're going to maybe get 9 wins, maybe 10, and I think that the Seahawks are probably going to be about 8 and 9.
All right, so both of you guys have Seattle finishing last, but Nate, you said you have Seattle finishing last,
but I don't have all
making
4
the playoffs.
teams walking away into the playoffs. That'd be kind of crazy.
That would be insane. That is a very bold take, my friend.
Yeah, I have Seattle as the 7th seed in the playoffs. I have as number 6 seed, I have your 49ers. And then as the number 5th seed, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Then I have Rams winning the division and the Super Bowl.
Well, okay. I mean, the Rams certainly can do it. They have a team built now to win, especially with Matthew Stafford in there. You see what Sean McVay has done with Jared Goff, of all people, at quarterback, making the playoffs year after year after year, including the Super Bowl. So why not with a better quarterback and a good defense?
Yeah. I feel like Matthew Stafford, even though injury might be an issue this year because of his age, if he's completely healthy, I feel like he is a completely underrated quarterback and a way better quarterback than Jared Goff.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Nate, what else did you have on your list of things to talk about?
Did y'all talk about and it's not very, I don't have a lot to say on this, but did you guys talk about Giants Jets?
We did not. Tee it off for us.
Yeah, I'm a big BYU fan. So I really like Zach Wilson. You know what he did for us last year. My only concern is he's going into a New York Jets team that traded away Sam Darnold. I didn't like that move. You know, I like the move for Carolina. Don't get me wrong, I do. He's another one of the underrated quarterbacks that went on to a new team this year. But I don't like that he left the team for Zach Wilson's standpoint, because who do the Jets have as veteran leadership now?
Well, the Jets and veteran leadership. Man, that's hard to even pick. I mean, it seems like they've kind of with the new coaching staff, they have really what's the word I'm looking for? Revitalized, or they've kind of had a roster turnover with Robert Saleh coming in and LaFleur as offensive coordinator. I mean, this is a team that is gonna be. I have the Jets pegged as like a 3-4 win team this year. I think they're going to be absolutely terrible, but I think
they have improved. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, they can possibly improve, but they might still have a terrible win total because
we've been talking this whole show about quarterbacks that can't move outside the pocket and quarterbacks that can't make throws and throw on the run. Well, at least the Jets do have a quarterback that can do all that. I don't know if he makes the best decisions all the time, but I've seen Zach Wilson make some throws while scrambling, going to his right, going to his left. He can throw against his body, so he can do all that stuff. The question is he going to have quality receivers to try to make those throws to, and is he going to try to make those throws in situations where he would be better off to throw the ball away? I think that's what Nate's trying to get at is a veteran quarterback might eat the football or throw the ball in the stands instead of trying to force the game a little bit.
And some people are saying that Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco went to the Eagles, so I mean, you can't really say that for him either.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like veteran presence, I mean, they still have Jamison Crowder there. They still got what Denzel Mims, he's there.
Yeah, true.
Didn't they sign Corey Davis? Big signing in the
Yeah,
offseason.
from the Titans.
So I mean, they got some pieces there that Zach Wilson could work with. But I mean, they're pretty bare bones in terms of talent, in my opinion. And it's still the New York Jets. I do love Robert Saleh, though. He did a lot for the 49ers defense. But I still got them last in the division in the East by far, I believe. Even though I hate on Miami a lot because of Tua, maybe that's a conversation for another day. But I still have them pegged at 4th.
Hey, I feel the same way about the New Orleans Saints. I don't really care too much about that team, even though they're not even in my conference.
They got great fans.
Yeah. So, going into, I think, what was the last, we touched a lot about this before. We touched a little bit about this before I had one of my lag spikes. Going into, let's talk a little bit about the Chicago Bears with Justin Fields. I feel like same with Mac Jones. He's coming in from Ohio State. Mac Jones coming in from Alabama, who they both are really good college recruiting schools, but the talent level just doesn't transition into the NFL. Now, I feel like I heard from some Chicago Bears fans that Justin Fields is going to break the curse. Now,
I wouldn't trust any Chicago Bears fans to evaluate any quarterback. They haven't had a quarterback since the 1950s. So anybody that you're talking about in Chicago that knows about quarterbacks is probably at least 70 years old.
I will say this though. If the Packers had let go of Aaron Rodgers, then they would be the team I think will take the division. But I don't see that happening now.
I think that it was an excellent move for Pace to go out and get Justin Fields. And when he slipped that far in the draft, it was kind of a no-brainer to go out and try to pull something off. And he didn't really have to give up, the farm to get him. I think that it was a great pickup. I think that Fields is going to fit in nicely. I think that he's going to be a great addition to the team. I've seen him work out. I mean, he's got a big arm. He can make some really awesome passes. And I think that when you're talking about how the talent translates, that's like saying, in the NBA, this guy's from North Carolina, and how the North Carolina guys are. I think it's all about the players and not necessarily the program. I know that, history will say, maybe Alabama quarterbacks did this and Ohio State quarterbacks did this, and you look at their records and what they did, but I think it's all about the individual player and not necessarily where they came from, because you can look at all the sports and go, he played for Kentucky, and those Kentucky guys, they're only good for 3 seasons or something, but I think it's really purely a level of your intelligence. I don't think it really has a whole lot to do with the school. I think it's just has to do with your talent level, honestly.
So
yeah.
So I'm kind of laughing at a comment that is being made, even though I'm changing the subject a bit. Troy Villegas, who's gonna fight more, the Rams or their fans?
Well, it seems like they're a bunch of idiots and they fight themselves. Maybe I think they'll have more fights in the stands than wins. That's for sure. I think that can be obvious there. But going back to Justin Fields real quick, I don't know what they're thinking there in Chicago. Why even contemplate starting Andy Dalton? We saw Andy Dalton hasn't been good for 3 years now. You have an up-and-coming guy in Justin Fields, mobile in the pocket, strong arm. Yeah, I know you can't really glean much off of preseason and what happened, but Ryan Pace, you're about to get fired. Matt Nagy, you may get fired if you do not make the postseason. Put the guy in. Andy Dalton is not going to get you to the postseason. Andy Dalton has been declining for well over 3 years. And if you're in decline in the NFL and you're not improving, you're a waste. And Justin Fields at this point in time is in my opinion the best quarterback in that quarterback room in Chicago, and they have some talent to play with there. I mean, let's not forget they have Allen Robinson, they have a Komet, they have David Montgomery, they got some pieces there to work with, and just put Justin Fields out there. I don't think he's going to start week 1 just because I think their coaching staff is they're probably not the best. But I think they need to put him out there, in my opinion, week 1.
I'll make a hot take, and this is for Nate. Nate, I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not, but my hot take is Vic Fangio is equally the worst thing to happen to both the Broncos and the Bears. Okay, because when he was an excellent defensive coordinator. So when he left the Bears, it took a little bit of the heart out of that defense, and then when he came to Denver, he's a great guy and everything, but I don't necessarily think that he's the greatest as far as X's and O's and head coach level. So I think that it wasn't necessarily a great hire on his part. I'm not saying that he needs to be on the hot seat, but I think that he is a better defensive coordinator, just like, Norv Turner, Pat Shurmur, some of those guys are better coordinators than head coaches. I don't know what you think, but that's kind of how I take it.
So I'm going to answer this in like 2 parts. For the Chicago Bears, I definitely agree with you. The Denver Broncos, it's more of I'm going to have to see more for him, because a lot of players, especially on our defensive last year, was injured, and he is a defensive-minded coach. You did have Bradley Chubb that was played throughout most of the season. So I feel like it's same with him and Drew Lock. It's more of I don't want to get rid of him now. It's more of I want to wait and see more.
I mean, real quick, how is it possible that Khalil Mack trade? How is it possible that the Bears and the Raiders both lost that trade? Because the Raiders have done nothing with those picks, and the Bears have done nothing with Khalil Mack.
Yeah, they basically have wasted Mack's talent.
They have wasted his talent, and the Raiders have done absolutely nothing with those picks, just like they have for the past 20-plus years.
Yeah. God. Yeah, I'm looking at those picks, and I'll take Khalil Mack over all 15 of those picks any day of the week.
So let's go into the comments. Real quick. Do you think the Raiders' defense will improve this year? I'm just going to say no. But what are your thoughts on that?
Do I think the Raiders' defense will improve this year? I mean, they couldn't get much worse. I mean, they have Gus Bradley there. He's a DC who has pedigree. I mean, he was there in Seattle. He led some of those interesting. I mean, actually, I'm not even gonna touch on his Jacksonville Jaguar days because they were putrid. I think he had 14 wins in 4 seasons. That's how good Gus Bradley was in Jacksonville. But I think he was good with the Chargers. I think he's way better than Paul Guenther. What Gruden had there in Paul Guenther, I think it'll be an improvement. Now is it going to be an improvement enough to win a couple more games? I do not know. I don't think they have the talent there in Las Vegas. I think from a pure personnel standpoint, I don't think they have the talent there. And that's coupled because they've just been making terrible draft picks over the course of this Gruden tenure.
I'm going to have to disagree about one thing, though. You said that you like him better with the Chargers than you did with Jacksonville?
Well, I mean, in Jacksonville, as a head coach, they won 14 games over the course of 4 seasons.
True.
That's terrible. I think he has one of the worst winning percentages in modern day football history in terms of head coaches. He went to the Chargers right after. They dealt with some injury problems, but the problem with the Chargers was not their defense; it was bad in-game management by Anthony Lynn. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I think they definitely did improve on the defensive coordinator on the coaching side of the ball. I think they are way better equipped, but I just don't think they have the talent. We'll see if Gus Bradley can elevate the talent.
And then to answer the second question, he's a great quarterback. I want to put him top 5 though. Top 10, yeah, yes, definitely. Top 5, I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say that now.
I think what's interesting with all these quarterbacks, especially a guy like Justin Herbert, is that he didn't play in front of a crowd last season, so he got to have his rookie season in front of dead air. He didn't have an opposing hostile crowd to deal with. So we'll see how he deals with that when that happens. So that's a crucial component. But just by looking at his play last year, I mean, Jesus Christ, that guy, he was fantastic. I mean, granted, he has Keenan Allen and he had Hunter Henry, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are slightly overrating the Chargers this year because of Justin Herbert, but we shall see. I mean, I think it'll be very crucial to see how he reacts when he's put in a situation in a hostile environment.
So, Greg, we'll go with you on that. Thoughts on Justin Herbert? Do you put him as a top 5 quarterback?
I have him just outside of the top 5. I think that he's going to be very close. I think that he had an outstanding rookie season. He didn't jump right into the fire. He was out a few games, but then he came in, and when he came in and filled in, they couldn't keep him off the field. So he came in, took over the spot, and he lit it up. So I think that he's going to be probably in the top 7 or 8 in the league.
You say he was out a few games. He was actually more like out the first game. That was it, because what was going on with Tyler Taylor. But that's another conversation for another time. Actually, I think we talked about it in a past video as well. So, moving on, going away from the NFL, let's talk a little bit about baseball. But going into the San Francisco Giants, do you think that they still are going to finish off first in their division, despite having a couple of opponents who are really talented? I mean, as well, the Dodgers, obviously, and the San Diego Padres.
Well, I mean, the Giants right now, as it stands right now, they're up 4-3 against the Mets. They have 76 wins. They have the best record in baseball. They're 4 games ahead of the Dodgers at 76 and 42. They're a team that's stocked with depth. They rely on all players, not just one player. Every day, a different hero, a different player contributes. They have the 3rd best run differential in Major League Baseball and 2nd in home runs. So it's not like they're a fluke or they're overrated. Coming off of the All-Star break, they've won 6 series in a row, and that's against the Dodgers twice, the Brewers, and Houston. So it's not like they've been playing shit teams. Now, do I think they're going to win the division? I mean, you look at who the Dodgers added in Trey Turner, Matt Scherzer. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough because the Dodgers have one of those teams where they just need to put together one good week, and which they have been doing since that trade, but the Giants have been keeping up with them by winning. But I mean, you look at the talent disparity between the two teams, it's just not even close. And you have kind of seen signs of the Giants kind of coming back to earth, especially in their starting pitching. Gosman hasn't been the same. DeSclafani hasn't been the same. Wood is hit or miss. They are very lucky that they put, I think they've had a 5-game lead. It's now at 4. It's going to be close. I think it's going to come down to that 3-game series down in LA, I believe, later in September. But in terms of speaking about San Diego, I think we can put San Diego on the side unless they make a huge run. They're like 7 or 8 games back right now. it's going to be the Giants and the Dodgers. And, the Giants haven't been competitive for the last 5 or 6 years, so it's very good to see them competitive again. They've been doing it with, no-name misfits traded from teams that gave up on them, like Lamont Wade Jr., Donovan Solano, Mike Yastrzemski. Their bullpen, they don't even have a real closer. They kind of just mix and match. Their coaching staff, credit to their coaching staff and Farhan Zaidi for kind of structuring the team, building the team full of depth. But now they traded for Chris Bryant. That was a needed addition. I just kind of wish they went out and got another starting pitcher. I know they tried to get Scherzer, didn't happen. Obviously, he went to the evil empire. But I mean, it'll be interesting. I think it'll be close. I'm not going to try to homer it. I'm cautiously optimistic that we can, maintain the 4-game lead. Can they hold on? We shall see. It's still August. There's still a lot of baseball to go. But I think it'll be close. I think it'll come down to that 3-game series down in LA. And the Giants still have at least, I believe they have at least 10 games or 7 games, something like that, remaining against the Padres as well. Those will be crucial games. It's tough because the Dodgers are stacked, and we haven't even seen their full power yet because they haven't. Cody Bellinger's not hitting. When he comes back to hit, we'll see what happens. Mookie Betts has been off and on the IL. Clayton Kershaw's been out. So it's, once they get those guys back, it'll be tough, but we shall see. We shall see.
Now, we'll go with Greg, and I guess we're going to have to, close this out because we did pass the hour mark. Greg, what are your thoughts on the Giants? Do you think that they're going to win without, especially after, quote unquote, the angry degeneration said evil empire, making those moves with the MLB trade deadline? Do you think that the Giants still have the best chance at winning?
It's going to be tough because they got 19 game. They got the next 19 games are going to be extremely tough. I mean, they're facing the Braves, they're facing the Brewers. As we know, the Brewers are playing outstanding baseball. They have the best 1-2 punch right now in all baseball from a pitching standpoint with Woodruff and Burns, and of course Hader in the closing role. So, and the Brewers are hitting the ball well too, and the Braves are coming on. I wish that Ray was here because we could talk about the Braves a little bit for him. I know that he's a big Braves homer over there. So, they're coming on strong. Their pitching is finally looking like, they're projected to be a top 5 pitching staff this year, and they hadn't performed that well very early on, and it carried all the way midway through the season, and now the Braves are coming on. So, and Mike said it best, they got several games coming up against the Padres, who are still smashing the ball. I mean, I know that I don't think the Padres are going to catch them. I think they're too far gone. But the big test is going to be the Dodgers, because the Dodgers went out and got some huge names at the trade deadline. It was kind of the haves and have-nots, during the trade deadline. The Yankees went and pretty much picked up every big bat that they could find. And then the Dodgers went out and got the pitching and a couple decent bats and everything. So the Giants didn't make a ton of splashes, as much as some of the others during the trade deadline. But I sure hope that the Giants can hold on. I'm not a huge Giants fan, but I'm getting tired of seeing all the big money teams, the Dodgers and Yankees and everybody getting all the players. It's kind of nice to see a scrappy team like the Giants play, because they got a bunch of guys that are kind of no names, just kind of like how the Oakland A's, the roster that they had, they all started out as kind of no names until they built themselves up. Nobody had heard of Matt Olson 5 years ago or so, and so they got some players that definitely are going to be commanding some big paydays here in the near future.
Anxiety learned from Billy Beane. He learned from the best.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and so I think that it's gonna be tough. I mean, I think right now they're still the best team in baseball, especially record wise. But I think that the Dodgers may have a chance to close the gap just because based on who they picked up and everything. And we haven't even heard or seen from Trevor Bauer. He's pretty much the new Joe Biden. I mean, he's pretty much locked in a basement somewhere. They won't let him talk to anybody.
So, allegedly, guys. Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Real quick before we move on to this question, I just wanted to point out that the Giants are playing with house money at this moment. I mean, you look at every analyst, every prediction that was out there. They had the Giants pegged for third place, finishing with 77 wins. So they're playing with house money right now. That's something we got to remember. So even if they somehow fall off, this season has been a success. The upcoming seasons as well. They only have 2 players signed on beyond this year, Brandon Crawford and Tommy LaStella. So they are shedding so much payroll at the moment. So they're going to be very competitive in the offseason and in that free agent market. Hopefully they don't make a bad decision like the Dodgers did with Trevor Bauer,
Yeah.
So I'm going to normally on the show, what I do is I have, the new guy give their first 30 seconds. 30 for the last 30 seconds. So I'll let you do that, and I'm gonna go second.
So what is this? It's supposed to be my hot take? Is this supposed to be?
Anything that you want to say about the last 30 seconds of the show? You have 30 seconds to say whatever.
Well, guys, I thank you so much for having me here on the Sports Corner. I look forward to being back for the next Mondays. I think it'll be fun covering sports, especially during football season. I'm very excited for that. Hopefully, we grow this audience. Hopefully, we grow this thing. And for all the people, all my fans out there, please follow me at the Angry Degenerate Podcast. Also on TikTok, also on Instagram, and also on my podcast, which can be found at Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any podcast network out there. And thank you for having me, Nate.
So, for my last 30 seconds, I'm going to answer a question. Eduardo Lopez, he has a question about Saquon Barkley. Do you think he's going to be a boom or a bust? It's because of his injury that happened last year, which knocked him out second game of the season. But to answer that question, I don't have a lot of faith in the Giants' offensive line this year. Giants fans are saying that they got better. The offensive line got better. I don't really think so. I kind of think it's worse. So my hot take, and I'm on a roll with these hot takes today. I think the Giants are going to have Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley if they get hurt. And if they miss a significant amount of time, I think they're both going to be demanding a trade. So, and then my second thing is I am not a San Francisco Giants fan. Just a quick thing to tell Mike. But I am slowly going to start collecting baseball caps. And I have 3. One of them is the Giants. The other is the Colorado Rockies, my favorite team in that conference. I'd root for more than one team. And the third one is my favorite team, the Texas Rangers. Now, Greg, go with you. What are your final last 30 seconds?
I think Greg has left the building here. Greg is back. Oh no, Greg is gone.
All right, so this has been Nate, Greg, and Angry Degenerate signing out. See you guys next week.
Deuces, guys. See you guys next week.
All right, as soon as I can figure this